What's the good word, everybody? DKB here. So Garrett Wilson he's been on an absolute tear lately, and he looks like he can have the best season produced by a New York Jets rookie at the wide receiver position in history. And I'd argue he's definitely working his way into a top 20 position in the last 2 decades. So with Garrett Wilson, lots of accolades that he's racked up so far, lots of amazing statistics, trends, leadership capability, as we've seen with him kind of galvanizing the offense after essentially ripping the offense and letting them know some of the performances that we've been seeing in the passing game were absolutely not okay. But jumping into his accolades, we are talking about a winner of Rookie of the Week 4 times so far this season, weeks 2, 8, 12, and 13. This puts him in great company, though, when we take a look at the history of the award. Granted, there's a little bit of fandom that's involved in everything, but you don't even get a chance to be voted in this, particular accolade without, doing the work. So other wide receivers that have the same amount or something close to it. We're talking about wide receiver Mike Wallace in 2003 that won it 3 times. Keenan Allen with the Chargers in 2013 that won it 4 times. Odell Beckham Jr. with the Giants in 2014 that won it 4 times. And Amari Cooper with the Raiders in 2015 that won it 4 times. And we haven't really seen another wide receiver that's kind of done the same thing since. There's been a lot more quarterback play and different things like that have stolen awards from like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Plus, maybe their fan base just isn't as rabid as ours is. But irregardless, we're definitely talking about one of the next best seasons by a rookie wide receiver. And given the fact that no matter how you feel about the quarterback position, we're not talking top tier talent. Mike White definitely balling out of his mind and going insane, but we're still talking about Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson, who have both poorly underperformed, and we're seeing this kind of season out of them. So next year, hopefully a better quarterback situation, whether that be somebody we brought in or talent that we developed, being Zach Wilson or Mike White. We see him flourish from start to finish. But it is great company to be in. And if he had a career similar or anything close to any one of those 4 guys, I would say we've absolutely nailed that pick. But there are some interesting things, right? So when we talk about New York Jets wide receiver history, previously we know that Garrett Wilson just surpassed the record Keyshawn Johnson's held for forever, at least since 1996, when he had 844 yards. Garrett Wilson just surpassed that, so we know he's going to be the receiving yardage leader from this point moving forward until the next great one comes along. But touchdowns wise, that's really one of the only areas you may be able to nitpick with Garrett Wilson. He only has 4 in the season. Granted, those have come in bunches when he's collected them. Keyshawn Johnson, he had 8 touchdowns his rookie season. And Elijah Moore had 6 his season, which, keep in mind, also got ended 4 games early due to his quad injury. But I think it's worth also comparing those two because we thought Elijah Moore was going to be an immediate superstar wide receiver based off what he done his rookie season, and then of course the development and all the natural growth and things that should happen leading into a sophomore year, as well as the understanding that we were going to go out and acquire, someone of Garrett Wilson's caliber to help augment this offense. So when we think back to Elijah Moore's rookie season, we remember that through weeks 8 to 12, he was absolutely decimating the NFL and its cornerbacks, and he was essentially top 5 to top 7 in most key categories that anybody's going to look at. So the main focus, though, Elijah Moore had 34 receptions, 459 yards, and 5 touchdowns on 45 targets from that week 8 to week 12 period. Now, in comparison's sake, if we want to take a look at the last 6 games or so from Garrett Wilson, so we're talking weeks 8 to 13, 35 receptions, 554 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 49 targets. Eerily similar. Obviously, there's a little bit of a game's difference in some of those, but you're still talking about these being pretty on par with Elijah Moore, and we were ready to anoint the guy as the Jet savior, and given his stature and everything else in terms of his physical build, the number one wide receiver status on this roster, regardless of Corey Davis and regardless of whoever we brought in during the offseason. So seeing Garrett Wilson essentially replicate that same similar kind of production, and they both did it in various situations. When you look at Elijah Moore, he was essentially the focal point in the offense at that time. No other real weapons around him, and we're still talking about Zach Wilson, a shaky rookie, maybe playing a bit above average during that stretch period, but nothing record altering, right? In Garrett Wilson's case, very similar situation, maybe even a little bit less in that Zach Wilson deteriorated. He had to play with Joe Flacco. There was obviously the game that he missed. Excuse me, I'm thinking about Elijah Moore, but irregardless, Garrett Wilson, very bad quarterback play. Mike White kind of had a transcendent first 2 weeks. Third week kind of got bullied around by the Bills. At least the offensive line did, and he suffered the consequences. But Garrett Wilson is drawing that number one cornerback attention. He's drawing double screens. We're seeing edge players kind of try to hitch him on his way to running routes when they have the opportunity. So teams are definitely scheming for him and different things like that, where I feel like Elijah Moore didn't necessarily have some of the same problems that a Garrett Wilson did. Irregardless, two very solid stretch of performances, to not take anything away from Elijah Moore. And when it's all said and done, I think ultimately we're talking about Garrett Wilson unanimously having the best wide receiver rookie season by a Jet. And he's definitely working his way into the top 20, as I mentioned. One of the other things that stood out to me stat-wise that I dug up was that if he can eclipse the 1,000-yard mark, which, if I remember correctly, he only needs to average 33 yards per game over the next 4, and he'll definitely get that mark. It'll be the 26th time a Jet has reached that milestone, and he would only become the 6th player to reach the 1,000-yard mark in a single season as a New York Jet since 2000. That has been where our offense has been at for the last 2 decades. Absolutely crazy, but I think we definitely get the job done. So I don't know how you guys argue this, but let me know what your guys' thoughts are if you do have a point about him not having the best wide receiver season by a rookie for the New York Jets, or just your thoughts in general about the season he's having. Either way, I appreciate the support as normal, guys, and I'll catch you again. Peace.